If you're listening, I am joined today by three incredibly powerful, gifted, spiritually elevating, amazing women. And I'm just really grateful. Anna, thank you for stepping in and doing that. That was very, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for having all of us.
So my pleasure. Well, I am here today. I'm so excited. I'm here with this incredible, I want to say almost you're coming across as like this band of like high priestesses is what's coming to mind, like these incredibly, just really, women of honor, of valor. And I love the name. You come bearing the name Spiritually Psyched. And I love that. I would just love to talk about how did you form this group? What is it that your deepest intention around it, and just to share a little bit about your story, even a little bit about yourself, I know Alyssa being a psychotherapist, and Ria and Anna being a master intuitive, and I probably missed a few things, although you heard the bio already, but to maybe just share a little bit about each of your living into your Youest you, and how what I'm getting is created the Weest we. That's really what it is.
Oh, that's great.
The Weest we. I'm like, wait a minute. And I just heard it. Yeah. The Weest we being spiritually psyched. Who would like to, maybe Alyssa, because we connected first. Would you like to start?
It's funny, I didn't want to put Anna on the spot, but I wanted to ask Anna to start. Because Anna, I mean, we've all known each other individually and collectively individually for a long, long time, and then collectively not so long. But it was Anna that approached me with this project in mind.
Oh, I love it.
That we've known, Anna and I have gone back, we go back a number of years, and we've had many a dialogue around this topic. And Anna that approached it with her, and if you mind maybe sharing what made you want to approach the two of us and get this going.
Anna, please share, please. I'd love to hear.
Sure, that's sure. So, well, it's such an interesting story because I met Alyssa and I connected. Alyssa has a beautiful center, always has, and her center has grown so much the last couple of years, but we really connected there. I attended your center to take workshops there and teach workshops there, and I actually gave you a reading. Isn't that really how it worked? I gave you a reading, and then I gave a reading to like all the other therapists.
Yeah.
That's how it started. But I just loved, I love what Alyssa, the energy that she brings, because she has this beautiful, beautiful balance between the grounded understanding of, the everyday stuff that you need to do to step into action in your life and to really make everything you do have deeper meaning. But at the same time, she just had this grounded view of spirituality that I really appreciated. And she just has this beautiful way of doing it. Her whole center does. I mean, if you look at her recovery programs at the center, I'm somebody who's in recovery. I've been in recovery for 26 years. So that's another thing that really attracted me to Alyssa, because Alyssa and her partners, because I know that she has a few other partners. I want to make sure that I mention them, created probably one of the most amazing recovery programs I've ever encountered, which combined this mental health and spirituality cohesive. So that's what really attracted me to Alyssa. And Ria and I have a fun story. We've known each other since we were like 13.
Oh my gosh.
We went to high school together. And we've kind of just been friends along the journey. And I've acknowledged, and we've acknowledged each other spiritually our whole lives, really. And it just kind of, we always knew we were going to do something together. I always really respected her work, and Ria presented me a few years ago with a really beautiful opportunity to work with her with the veterans. She works very closely with veterans and first responders as a mental health practitioner, and she wanted to create a spiritual retreat for them. And she had called me up and said, hey, do you think we could make this collaboration? So we did it, and it was just a really amazing experience. So, I just started thinking one day, wouldn't it be great to have us all come together and share our ideas, share our passion and our calling for this balance of spirituality and mental health? Because I felt they were really craving the spiritual aspects more and more as a part of their work. And for me, I was deeply craving the psychological and the therapeutic and the clinical aspects to bring into my work. So it just kind of worked. It was just a door that opened, and we all just fit in the doorway perfectly. So it just happened that way, and they were all really excited when I presented it to them, and here we are. Here we are.
Wow.
It was,
Beautiful.
it was sort of under our noses like the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't you feel that way? And then sort of we just came to a point where we're like, oh yeah, okay, this is what we have to do.
Right.
It's just, we had a certain kind of conversation with one another that we couldn't necessarily have with everybody else.
Right.
And we just spoke each other's language, really. There was a language there. Yeah.
Certainly timely. I feel like it would, I
Yeah.
think it would really lose something if we didn't speak to the times. I feel like, I think Ria, you said it so beautifully in our first podcast that we started, was the evolution. It's really the evolution of both of our fields, so to speak, of our interests, our passions, and it's definitely an evolution. The next phase, I think, of our work in this new dawn, this new era where we've stepped in, found ourselves in. So
yeah, it's an ethical responsibility for us as mental health practitioners to be able to sort of open the door for someone to, dive into and explore the spiritual aspects of themselves, their soul-based self, in an effort to, progress to their wellness. And Anna, I believe, I feel like you would agree in regards to the work that you do is really deep and can be tricky and complicated at times. And there's an ethical piece to that when you're working with somebody where it's their mental health very well, may be impacted by what it is
I
you're
love that
working with.
I love that you say that. And I love that you use that word ethical, because that really is exactly what I was experiencing the last 5 years of my work, was that there was a missing piece. There was this, I was witnessing a lot of people in the new age community or spiritual community not necessarily abiding by an ethical standard and presenting themselves to be more qualified in certain areas than they really were. And exactly, that's what led me to these ladies, and actually Alyssa and I, we had spoken in the past. I had said, hey, I'm going to do some of these workshops, which we're in the process of creating, and I would say, in my mind, I would say, I can't just be the spiritual teacher if I do this type of workshop. As we dive into these shadows, I need clinical therapists there with me to be able to hold a space for in the instance, like Ria is saying, that there is something really deep that does arise or get triggered. So you're 100% correct, Ria. And that's what I love about Spiritually Psyched, is that I feel even for my own personal work, I feel like a weight has been lifted because of Alyssa and Ria, because I know that I have, that we have a team now. And that whatever I do spiritually, if I want to go there with people to a deeper place, even when it comes to mediumship, you have people that are dealing with such deep states of grief, where after a while, as the medium, you kind of have to say, okay, listen, you can't get a reading anymore. You really need to go to a therapist. You need to go see a grief counselor. You're holding on to this. So I have these beautiful ladies that are working, as we're working together, that I can work with and go to in those really critical moments. So yes, Ria, and I love that you said that. I think you put that perfectly.
yeah.
I love the integrative approach, and I love what you said about this being, the way you said, an ethical responsibility. You also, all of you kind of touched upon this, but this idea of, opening the door, that the door opened for all of you to come together, but what you're doing is helping people to open the door to really their own soul, their own higher self, call it Youest, whatever you might call that. And I'm curious for those listening, this might be a trite question, but I'm curious, like, where would you have someone start in that journey of kind of getting to know their, connecting more spiritually with their soul in a way that is ethical, that's going to support them? Are there any, I don't know if there are any tangibles, but I'm thinking, I always get a lot of comments like, can you give some like step-by-steps or some tips, or how do I get more in touch with that part of me? And yeah, maybe we just start there.
Well, Anna, Anna again, but I wanted to point to your quote, your beautiful quote about spirituality without practicality serves no purpose.
Well, it
right?
serves little purpose.
There is a little part.
Spirituality without
Right.
practicality serves little purpose.
I
Right.
love that. That's your quote?
That's my quote. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
love that.
That's good. That should be on a bumper.
Yeah. Yes, I would. Yeah, let's talk about the practicality then, because maybe a little bit about the spirituality piece too, but then the practicality. This is, well, you know, we're human. What is it? We're spiritual beings having human experience. Like, got to make this so that, you know, it's practical, it's workable. So yeah, I'll give it to you, Anna. It's a bit.
Okay. Well, I think one of the most important aspects of, you know, opening the door, but in a practical way where you're remaining grounded in self, especially for somebody who's just beginning, maybe not necessarily for somebody who's been on the journey for a while, but I have found that, you know, traditional meditation practices really are the key. Traditional. So I'm not speaking about taking a shamanic journey. I think that's a little bit more of an advanced practice that might be able, that actually may serve as a bypass if somebody, it can serve as a spiritual bypass if somebody's not already integrated or connected to self. So, you know, the traditional mindfulness practice, that traditional practice is just really important. And I'm a big advocate, and I know that this word means different things for everyone, and I think that's what's so great about it. I'm a big advocate for prayer. Prayer is the greatest form of action, right? I believe Mahatma Gandhi said that. And prayer can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be religious. Maybe it is for you, but for me, it's not. It's literally just taking the time every morning and every evening to communicate with not only my soul, like literally talking to yourself, talking to your soul and having a conversation with yourself, as well as maybe acknowledging a higher power or a higher consciousness that you know you are collectively connected to. I really think in the beginning stages, I think it comes back to tradition, which is traditional meditation and prayer. I really think that's the first doorway. I mean, I don't know, Ria, Alyssa, what do you think?
So I'm sorry, Ria, did you want to say
Go
something?
ahead, honey, go ahead. Yeah.
So I want to say that I love what you're saying, and I agree. So sometimes people are, and I don't know if you're asking this, Julie, but there's sometimes people are really, really at the very beginning stages, they don't even necessarily connect or understand their soul, like understand that they have a soul. I don't know if that's like where we're at, but so there's our center focused on that. The name of the center is the Holistic Center for Soulful Living.
Yes.
And the quote that, and as we enter the center, the quote is on the wall as you enter, is the courageous is a soul who adventures into time and space to learn of their divinity, to learn of their truth. And in our work with so many different practitioners, we say there are many paths and one truth. And so the idea is like, so for somebody who's so wanting to start somewhere, and and the question would be, why? What's bringing them to that place? What is making, like, you know, what is it? I often will say I work a lot with the body and just really tuning into, you know, if someone shows up with anxiety, where do you feel that in your body? And you go with the chakra system. So my doorway in often is connecting the body to the emotion, to the spirit. But so that's one way. That's a big way. I work a lot with that piece of just really honing in on the energy that's showing up in the body and starting to name that, helping them understand the connection between their emotions and their physical body. And again, that's the beginning stages, then you go from there. But Ria, did you want to share anything?
Yeah. You know, like I feel like I've spoken a little bit before, but I feel like it's really important that, you know, and Anna, okay, you were saying, you know, communicating with yourself, the form of prayer. I feel like the ability for another, you know, when working with a client, let's say, the ability for another person to really openly and honestly share with me, you know, for me to be, to hold space and be empathetic enough and create a loving, sacred space for someone to begin to really share in a way that's really true and meaningful. I feel like that's the work without them even realizing that that's the work.
Yeah.
You know, us three have talked before a little bit about how the therapist client relationship is a spiritual experience. You know, that it is, there's spiritual energy in all of those things, in empathy, in, you know, in unconditional positive regard, those classic things. If it's real,
Yeah.
It is the spiritual experience. So I feel like providing space for someone to share certain parts of themselves, they're
Yeah.
already starting to do those things. And then maybe when the other stuff, the other kind of dialogue comes in,
Yeah.
they're a little bit more receptive to it, and there's a feeling to it. It feels familiar and it feels safe. So there's more of a willingness to explore, maybe.
Mm,
Yeah, beautiful.
Um,
Beautiful.
yeah.
beautiful.
I love
But-
how you talked about the vulnerability, Rhea, because that's I this is what I love about Alyssa and Rhea is, you know, being able to understand that just being in the, and this is something that they've taught me, just somebody coming into a space with a therapist, being willing to be vulnerable
Yeah.
is a soul centered space. I mean, it doesn't get more soul connected than that. Right. So I love that because for some people, maybe the doorway in is more of the spiritual, the classic spiritual route like meditation and prayer, but maybe like Rhea and Alyssa are stating, and I think for a lot of people, the doorway is really that first moment that they step into a room with a psychotherapist or a mental health practitioner and begin to open themselves up, and they're willing to go to those spaces within themselves where their soul has been ignited, whether through challenge or trauma. So I love that you brought that they both brought that piece up, because I do think that that's really how we all get ignited. I mean, I don't really know anyone that has reached a spiritual connection with self that did not have some form of difficulty or challenge or initiation process within, right, that led them to that discovery.
Yeah.
Right. For me, it was addiction as a very young, as a young adult, and then an overdose, then recovery. I mean, that was my process. That's what brought me to spirituality. Right.
Yeah.
So for instance, like Julie, what brought you to spirituality? What brought Alyssa? What brought Rhea? I think every one of us might find there's definitely going to be a piece in there
Yeah.
of something that was challenging or really
Oh, yeah.
difficult. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love what you were just saying, and I think that to get that those challenges and to look at them and to ask those questions, that is living in a space of spiritual connection with your soul. I think there's this idea, at least I've had it before, like there'll be a time where it's just, I'm like at one at all moments and there's no more challenge. And I think what I'm hearing too is that this is a journey, and often in those most challenging breakdown points, mine addiction in a different family, but similar probably. It was those moments of not wanting to live anymore, where there was that, do I live? Do I not live, or do I live? And when I chose to say, I'm going to go and recover, I'm going to take care of myself, that was the most intense soul conversation, but very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I think what you're saying is to almost like honor, we all have those moments, those challenges. And that's where often the soul maybe we start to hear or sense or feel something beyond what we have before.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite poems is also inspired the center. I don't mean to keep talking about the center, but it's been my wheelhouse.
Why
My
not?
baby.
It's beautiful. It's a wonderful center.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please.
So one of the parts of the poem, it's called A Soulful Life, is the name of the poem, and there's a part that says, have you dared to step fully into your chamber of darkness, transforming your terror into that of a trusted friend? And just all the ways we access the soul, how we understand the soul and access the soul. And I do believe that, I think it's true that we can't necessarily access it without some, I don't want to say darkness, but without some whatever it is, whatever you just described, conflict or trauma or something that's challenging.
I also feel like part of that too is then I've found that accepting that part of yourself, because I feel like we've all been through some of those struggles. And actually, Julia, because I was thinking a little bit about the Youest you, and I'm like, okay, because that's a question. What makes you, and I think part of it is like learning to really love parts of yourself that maybe you've previously wished that you didn't have to experience, or wish that you can change, or things that you're not necessarily so good at. I mean, all of those things that we've been through, all those struggles, they were they were difficult and they were hard. And it's like, oh, all right, I had to go through that. But all of those things is what make us who we are. You
I
know,
love how
that's
you,
what makes us our Youest You's. And
yeah,
so I guess part of it too is maybe forgiving ourselves for some of the things that we've done for this, which is a
yeah,
hard thing to do. It
yeah,
is. It's a really hard thing to do. And learning to love those pieces, because
yeah.
they are really part of who you are, and bringing them forward with you. It can be, it can be a challenge, but it's so necessary.
And
Love.
isn't that, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I'm gonna say love. I mean, Julia started
Yes.
out with the idea of love. I mean,
Love.
really, that's a
Yeah.
big topic. And it's really is, right? Isn't that ties it all together?
Yeah.
That word love in all the different ways.
Well, I think even in today with all that we're dealing with, I know that I've read this over and over again, the idea that thoughts are rooted in fear or love, but in the end, it all comes, even fear, there's an aspect of love. And it's just what's coming forth to me. I got chills as you were speaking, Ray. I'm like, it's learning to love those parts. And forgiveness to me is kind of like the key that unlocks the door, to go back to your door metaphor. Forgiveness opens that door, which really is love. But doing that, I mean, I gotta, I'm working on that all the time,
I think,
forgiving.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a practice. It's like when they
Oh
say this
yeah.
mindful practice is something that you have to tend to every day. It's a
Yeah.
decision that you have to make over and over again in
Yeah.
order, which takes courage. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
courage, and it takes a lot of bravery to really step into that. But, and like you said, absolutely, it's something, it's not just one decision that we make and it's there. It's
Yeah.
something that we have to continue to do and work on for sure.
Yeah. No, I love it. Anna, you were going to say, I know I cut you off, so please.
No, that's okay. I'm loving
So beautiful.
every moment of this
Isn't this a great conversation?
with all these
I love
know.
this. Such a
Me
beautiful thing to
too.
be able to have this conversation. I love
I
it. I'm so
know.
grateful. Yeah.
Me too. It's so fun. I'm with you. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to kind of say a little, give a little bit more what Ria was saying because it's just, I call it a badge of honor. It's almost like some of the things I've experienced in my past and choices that I've made that led me into toxicity or difficulty, again, have shaped my character in a way that you just can't learn from a book, or you can't get in a meditative process. Like it's a life experience that's like a badge of honor. So for instance, like when I work with people in recovery, when I work with, people that are in their recovery process from addiction, like I have a badge of honor. I know it sounds like a weird thing, but it's like, I've been there. I did this. I know you and you know me. So sometimes I have found that even though I didn't have the clinical background or training to work in those arenas, when I was allowed to go in as a spiritual teacher, there was another thing. My personal experience is what gave me the initiation to, or the ability to step in a room and say, hey, I get you. I get this piece of you that you see as dark. I have it too. And I want to talk to you about it. And I want to show you how you can take that and make it into the greatest light you've ever known within yourself, which is really what we're talking about, right? Taking pieces of ourselves that are really difficult. And then I believe those things are offerings. I believe, I do read soul contracts. I'm a firm believer in soul contractual agreements. And I believe that there are agreements that we have prior to coming here. I believe I agreed to that process during my active addiction and my recovery. And it led me to a place where it gave me a vehicle. It was just the vehicle for growth. So the addiction was just the vehicle. It was not who I am. It was the vehicle. And when I allowed the vehicle in, and I allowed myself to see the vehicle as an offering, I was able to step into recovery. And from addiction came freedom. From pain came love. From feeling lonely and despair, I came to a place of self-love and connection, right? So I think, Ria, that's really what you're talking about, is this process that it's how we perceive the pain, what we do with it, that really makes, all of the difference, right? I mean, but I like to call it a badge of honor. So every person has been through something that they have overcome and are doing well and have gained a certain amount of wisdom from, that now, they always say the teacher teaches what they most need to learn, right? Sometimes. So you can now be the teacher for others because you've had the experience, and you can wear that little badge of honor. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah. I call it my beautiful pain.
Your beautiful pain. I love that.
I love that. I love that too. And I call it my gift. It's been a gift.
Oh, wow. It's so fascinating if you even tune into to get a little in the spiritual realm, which I don't know why we couldn't here, the energetics of those words, it's a total shift, right? The gift, or did you say your beautiful pain? Is that what you called it? Your beautiful
Yeah.
pain, or the badge of honor. That is a very different way to hold those tough times, traumas. I love that. It's kind of shifting even the consciousness of how we look at those traumas. And, Anna, as you were talking, I was thinking about what a beautiful way to also look at it is, like the way you said it was, this addiction was the vehicle. I almost heard for your soul's, immersion or expansion, or to know yourself. That's a really powerful way. And I know all of you have that slant, and it shifts the whole conversation, because there's so much. This last year has brought out, I think, so much grief, trauma, doubt, worry. I mean, you name it. You all know this probably even better than I do.
Yeah. I say,
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Sorry, the Zoom is a little challenging, but it's all
good. We're all chatting. It's so fun.
I was going to say, just along those lines about the addiction, I just have another phrase that kind of goes along with that beautifully, people who struggle with their addiction are frustrated mystics looking for the spirit in the bottle. Like, you can use like alcohol as spirits. So basically looking for the spirits in the wrong, I would say, I don't want to judge it, but in a place that's not the place you're going to find a spirit. Frustrated. And I always say this, I love all people. I really do. I'm a people lover. And there's something about people who have struggled with addiction. I couldn't really my own struggles, but and work through in my own journey. But in general, just beautiful people tapped in. If they just are able to move away from their attachment to this, they really are connected in a way. And I know we all have the potential. All of us have the potential to connect. But the people struggle with addiction, I think, really don't even necessarily understand or make that connection, that they're feeling frustrated. And where we can help them find the doorway.
That is so beautiful. I've never heard that. I have a quick question, but I wanted to, before I ask, you were going to say something, I think Anna and Rhea, I don't know who, but please. It's beautiful.
I was just going to say, as far as the disconnection goes, addiction drives disconnection.
Yeah.
It just drives, you don't have the ability to connect with yourself, with others, and recovery brings, it helps you to connect again with
you're coming back to yourself.
You're coming back to yourself, which allows you to be able to connect with others, which is why we're here. We thrive when we're connected. I think that's Brene Brown. We thrive when we're connected.
Yeah.
What we're here to do is connect with one another. Yeah.
And as far as the vehicle, like that was just my vehicle, but as a soul contract, somebody who reads soul contracts, that's really the main intention. The main intention is, where did you choose these vehicles of growth in your life? Why did you choose them, and how do you take the offering from them? So it's, and it could be from divorce, it could be money, it could be addiction. There's so many different platforms of vehicles, but it's one of the things I love the most about doing soul contract readings is coming to the table, understanding that all of these things are just vehicles. How do we, and now in that we are not, not honoring your feelings. We are not honoring your process. But we're just basically saying, hey, if this experience was something that your soul desired for your own growth, how does that change it for you? How can we use that as a vehicle? If somebody's, willing in that moment to see it that way, because there are really difficult, traumatic events in life that is very hard to look at that way. And we have to honor that. But, just the idea that there's many types of vehicles of growth, but there usually are places where we're going to be challenged to have to go inside of ourselves and find the courage, the strength, the truth, the wisdom, the forgiveness. I mean, that's really what accelerates the growth, process.
It's shifting out of why is this happening to me and into what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Acceptance. I do have a question, and just, this could go in a lot of directions, but I know just my own experience and having I know a lot of the listeners were really into this idea of tapping into intuition and deeper wisdom. And many, I know, like myself, I'm guessing most of, if not all of us here, highly sensitive, empath, like really in tune. For me, addiction, frankly, was a way to just stop feeling a lot of, sensitive to energy, to people, to everything. And it was a way to just not feel that, and then, stress and focus on something other than what I was really feeling. And I think, addiction, I even think today, whether it's a bottle or, drugs or food, or I think many of us are addicted to, it could be behaviors, it could be negative thinking, it could be social media. Like addiction to me, of course, there's a variance and a spectrum, but I know from a lot of the listeners who write in, it could just be that addictive mindset to feeling not good enough, or that addiction to tuning out and blocking what's coming in. And just, I think under that is, I know for me, there was fear. I didn't really want to hear the voice that told me I shouldn't marry that first person, which said it many, many times, many times. And I did not listen until it woke me up, and so I've now learned, when I hear that, I'm like, I'm listening. But for some people, I get it. It can be scary. It can be, so I don't know, just looking at it from a holistic standpoint, that I think sometimes there's fear to really look into your, intimacy, into me, I see, into your soul. And maybe if you've had any thoughts or practical ways of kind of handling that, because I find that's under it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say, we use a word that we, in therapy, I'll just notice when someone's going in that direction. It's like, and we kind of go back to calling them on, it seems like you're in distraction. What are you distracting yourself from? And ultimately, really, ultimately, it's about not,
Yeah.
I want to say not wanting to feel, not wanting to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then in our emotion, I love just the idea of just the sort of study of emotional intelligence, and just recognizing emotions. Great Netflix series, a show, actually, movie on Netflix around that. Just that we, I think it's tuning into how we were raised, what we were taught to know and understand about emotion, is a key component to healing, and also just understanding that's part of our human experience. But I think we naturally want to go to the next nice feeling. We don't necessarily want to be with the uncomfortable, the discomfort. So a great, say, a doorway in, a way of healing, is to learn to be with the discomfort. To know that it has, the emotion itself has a graph. It's like there's a wave, we actually like to call it the wave of emotion. It's like, if you let yourself ride the wave of the emotion, there's a crest, and it will, it will dissipate. But a lot of people abort the mission. Like, you go up, 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 you're not feeling great. And then most people, addiction actually often shows up at that crest at the crest. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to grab whatever it is, distract myself from letting myself feel that. Sometimes it is fear of the unknown. It's like, if I let myself feel this and go to the depths of this, then what? Where am I going to go? Is it going to end? Am I going to drown in it? So there's so much about emotion, I think, that would be helpful to understand.
Sure. It's like
It's great.
it's like a downshifting the numbing. You have to downshift the numbing that you're doing slowly, and begin to feel again. I feel like, and when the feeling happens, that's why I feel like it's so important for us all to have someone to talk to. So, because sometimes they can't, or anyone just has difficulty identifying what they're feeling, because they probably really haven't felt in a really long time. So just identifying what they're feeling, and then having someone else to sort of help them gain a little bit of perspective on what that is. And that's anybody for anything.
Absolutely.
I had a really someone had mentioned to me once, I was struggling with something significant, and I was upset with myself, in the sense I was saying, why can't I figure this out?
Right.
What I do. This is what I do. I get it. I know. Why can't I figure this out? Like, what is wrong with me? And they were like, Rhea, you're too close to the forest to see the trees. I love that, because I was like, you're right. Like, I'm too in it to really, I need someone else to help me sort of see this a little bit differently, and process this in a way because I'm stuck. So, yeah.
I just love you ladies so much, because it's like, it's so incredible, because to hear it put that way, what you're all saying, each of you, about intuition and, you know, connecting to your emotions and really being able to sit with them is so amazing. And it's also like, I'm coming from the complete opposite. And this is why I love Spiritually Psyched, because this is what it's all about. Because they're going to help me, I'm going to help them, and we're going to find that happy balance. Because in my world, people tend to over dramatize or sensationalize their intuition. So in Rhea and Alyssa's experience with the people that they're working with, they can't even tap in because they don't want to feel it, right? In my world, when I teach classes, and I do trainings on this, I have extensive trainings on intuition, and a lot of the times the people that come to me, you know, they definitely have a flair for, you know, mediumship, or a flair for, you know, astrology, or whether they're psychics, whatever it is. But it would be so interesting, Spiritually Psyched ladies, to find this way to teach this in a balance, because for the people that I serve, I'm always having to get them to discern more properly and to come out of the sensationalized view of whatever it is that they are perceiving in their mind's eye. So for instance, I always tell my students that intuition is not this parting of the Red Sea. It is not this loud, massive experience. Now, do we have these loud, massive, you know, mystical experiences from time to time? Yes, I've had them. And I know everyone in this panel probably has had them on this podcast. But in the daily, it is a very subtle communication, and it happens within the body first. It happens within the body, and there's a stillness that needs to remain. So like, for instance, I always tell people the story that of an experience I had with my father. So, and Rhea, this is something that's great for you too, when you were talking about you're too close to the forest to see the trees. So my father, about 6 years ago, I was woken up in the middle of the night, and I heard a very, very calm, subtle, light little voice that said, now, you know, we have a split home, mother-daughter type of home. And I heard, you need to go upstairs because your father is going to have a heart attack. You need to get him to the hospital right away. But it was not I did not have fear in that moment. There was absolutely no fear at all. It was very calm, very still. Now, I was used to being able to sit in that stillness, that quiet place, because it's something that I do for my work and something that I am used to, acquainted with. And I literally and there was just no fear. I just went right upstairs. And it's kind of a funny story, because my dad was up in the middle of the night cooking pasta and drinking a beer. That's what he was doing. When I came in, I was like, we've got to take it. It was this whole thing. He yelled at me. We screamed. He didn't want to listen to me. I was like, I'm telling you right now, I have to take you somewhere. So luckily I had a neighbor who was an EMT, and I had him come over. And that's the only thing my father would agree to, is the neighbor coming over. And he came over and he took my father's vitals, and he said, Mr. Miranda, your daughter is right. If you don't get to a hospital, I have a feeling that you're going to have a big heart attack. Anyway, we got him to the hospital. He wound up having 4 stents put into his heart that evening, and he was fine. Now, the point of the story is, there was never a moment, there was no sensationalism to the intuitive message. It was very still, very calm, very safe, very silent. So I think that's, you know, that's what I have to teach the people in my craft, because they're usually coming in going, I saw this big, you know, it's always this big to-do thing. And I think this person is talking to, and there's always like a sensationalism to it, when really that happens from time to time. Those mystical experiences are a part of our process, but they're not an everyday part of the process. And everyday intuition is that still, silent place that you go to, where there's just a knowing in the body, a knowing in the mind. Your emotions don't start to flutter. Your emotions don't start to get the best of you and start running in directions of fear. It's a very still moment of knowing. And the moment that knowing comes upon you, there is an acceptance of that knowing. We don't question it. And there's even a strength that shows up inside that kind of makes you know, it's like a knowing that no matter what I just heard or felt, it's okay.
Yeah.
Everything is okay. I mean, that's the only, so it's interesting because I think we experience, you know, different aspects of it, which I'm always going to listen and read and go, how do I get them to calm down? How do I get them to stop wanting to sensationalize it and bring it into all these big places, right? And
Well,
so it's just interesting.
So refreshing. And I just want to say that I really love you too. I love all you ladies.
I know.
For all of you ladies. So this is a beautiful, beautiful conversation. And I just really love you. And I love the way you described that. I never heard the story, by the way. I've
You never heard that story of my dad? I think Rhea has.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll just share that I just love the way you just put that together. You know, we just talk a lot about. Julie, do you want us to ask a question?
No, before it's funny actually that we'll wrap soon, although I'm like, I don't want to end this ever, but I was asking myself that last question, and I'll share with you intuitively what I picked up on based on your background, Alyssa, but continue, please. We're good. No, this is it. Please keep sharing.
So we speak, you know, there's this term that is really a really big buzzword, and I know it's probably another whole conversation. We probably gonna have a whole podcast about this, the idea of spiritual bypass.
Yeah. You guys coming back in 6 months, we'll do spiritual bypass. Make it 3 months.
And so, you know, we talk a lot about that, and just what this allows, our group, our connection and our conversation and our plans for the future to really speak to the idea that the way to access all of the different parts of ourselves, to get to our you-est, our authentic self, is to move away from bypass, but, you know, find ways to access the soul in a different, you know, we don't have to do it necessarily in the clinical chair as a therapist, but, you know, and then in the spiritual world, we don't have to do it completely sensationalized, but there's a beautiful balance and marriage of these two worlds. So that's it.
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say. That we're working with maybe one side end of the spectrum, and that is working with some in you know, on the other, and really, you know, really the beauty is in the balance of that. Really, the goal would be to kind of bring both of those, maybe reel one in a little bit and sort of support and grow the other side of it a little bit, to find this balanced way in order to, like Anna was saying before, in order to make this a practical part of our everyday life, this tool that's so powerful for us to use on an everyday basis, that we recognize, that we can recognize and really tap into, for sure.
Oh my gosh, there are so many gems here. Literally, if I show you my paper, which is just crazy, I have notes everywhere. I'm going to try to make sense of this later. So much goodness here. And I think, you know, kind of coming back to that spirituality and practicality, you know, that this, whether you're coming in the door of, I am blocking everything, I don't want to feel, I know that camp for sure. And then there's the, like, I'm feeling everything. And it's like, you know, almost sounds like they're, you know, in a trippy experience. And it's kind of, and I really resonated, I was listening and I'm like, oh, that's truth. Like our souls, that knowing that, you know, it's a soft, subtle truth. I was like, yep, all of those times. And what I've noticed, their fear actually isn't even in there. It's just a gentleness. And you're right about the stillness. And I love how each of you bring in this blended, your brilliance and the different kind of integrative approach to help someone really access I think of it as your soul's calling, your soul's contract. I don't know of anything more important, you know, because I always feel like as free sovereign beings, sometimes we forget that, but, you know, we're here to add whatever we can, especially now. And this kind of leads to my last question. I was kind of asking myself intuitively, what is that question I really want to ask you about Spiritually Psyched? And I looked at your board, Alyssa, and I was like, oh, I see it. It just popped out, and it is high vision. I love that, the high vision.
Yes.
And I said,
this Alanis Morissette, Citizen of the Planet. Do you know the quote?
Oh, I love that. That is.
Me too. Me too.
So my question is.
Can you read it? Can we read the quote real quick?
Yeah, read the quote and then the question. Absolutely.
So
sure.
Let's see, but I am a citizen of the planet. My laws are all of attraction. My punishments are consequences of separating from source, the original sin. I am a citizen of the planet from simple roots through high vision. I am guarded by the angels and my body guides the direction.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, all right, drop the mic. I don't even have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, send me that quote. We're putting that in. That's going to be one of the things we add here.
It's a song, and I blast it to high heaven. I blast it because it's so brilliant. I love her so much. Alanis was great.
I just want to, I just want to say a little note. I'm running a little sacred money challenge for 5 days, and I've been playing songs. And this morning I had a song. It wouldn't let me play it, I Am Light, which I love. And I was like, give me a song. And I was like, give me a sign, a song. And I'm like, that's the song I'm playing tomorrow. So when we ask, I'm like, yes,
kind of song.
Yes. I'm like, how have I missed that song? That it like speaks what we're talking about. That's it.
You got it. One of my favorites.
I love it.
I have an office right now because we're in this time frame. I have an office at the center, but I'm in my kitchen. That's on my kitchen wall.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful. Well, my question to you is, what is the highest vision? I would say for you individually, but we're talking about as a collective, as Spiritually Psyched. What is your highest vision for Spiritually Psyched? Yeah.
Question.
Alyssa, I think you should go first on this.
I know. I'm like,
so before I got on with you guys, I said a prayer. And I always say this to start my work with clients this way, and just anything I'm doing that I feel is very important and wanting to really connect. It's like, dear God, universe, whatever you call it, help me, dear God, help me could be a channel of your love and your light, your wisdom, your strength, your divinity. And I was just saying before that just help us collectively, I hate to use this term because it's so like, I feel like it's sensationalized, but just like to collectively raise the vibration of the planet, but to really connect to more and more hearts and minds. And we're in a time really believe so strongly in the collective, universe we're in, that we are all one, we're all connected. We're just in this new interesting time in our culture. So it's just continuing to raise the vibration of the planet. I know it sounds sort of hippie bohemian, but it really is what I feel. It's like to raise the planet, learn to connect with more and more people and their hearts and their souls, and just spread the love.
Maybe so. My gosh. Hello. I'm like, doesn't sound hippie to me. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty awesome tall order. I'm in on that one for you guys. Help however I can. Anna or Ria?
Yeah. I feel like I would love to be able to just create a space for individuals to really feel comfortable expressing their most true and authentic selves. So how we're going to get there, I'm not sure. Some of those things going to be workshops? Is that going to be a podcast? Is that going to be a retreat? That we create? A series of courses. I'm not sure exactly, how that is going to look, but my intention and my goal is to just create this space for people to be able to go to a place within themselves with us to be able to really express and be themselves in a way that feels free, accepted. Because I think when people are resonating in that space, then the ripple just goes, it just tends to flow, and they bring that to every aspect of themselves, and they end up just finding the right place for themselves. Other things just always end up working out when you're functioning from that place. And I hope to help people to find that place through the work that we do.
Oh, I love that. I love everything that you guys said, and I agree with everything. I would say, and also me. Yes, I feel exactly the way that they do. I think the only thing I would add is, and this is more personal, because I appreciate people like Ria and Alyssa and their work so deeply, because, for the spiritual community that I come from, I'm hoping to provide a place with these wonderful ladies where people can really begin to ground themselves back into body and realize that that it's beautiful to be human, It's
Mm,
not just beautiful to be a spiritual being, and we know that. Everybody knows that. But to
yeah.
come back to the humanness, to come back to the realization, or at least to be able to say, hey, yes, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, but I chose to have a human
Mhm.
experience for this period
Yeah.
of time. So I find that, and of course, this is not in all spirituality, but I have found the last 5 years that this to be more and more prevalent, where there's so much denouncing of the human experience, the up, the
Yeah.
down, the sideways, even when it comes to eating, right? Even when it comes to something as simple as eating. I mean, I have a pretty strict type of eating habit because I have a lot of sensitivities. But I grew up, my parents are from Italy. I'm a first American. Food I love food. Like when I go to Italy, I'm so excited to enjoy the food that's in front of me. And I think there's times to enjoy things in life, like food, where we're always looking at things like what is the vibration of this? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that?
Mm.
Um, so I just really hope that with Alyssa and Ria's amazing brilliance and all the work that they bring, and the viewpoint that they bring, that they can help the spiritual community not only honor their spiritual selves, because I think the spiritual community has that down packed. I think they know how to what they don't know how to honor is the human condition and the human experience and the groundedness. So I'm
Yeah.
really hoping and really excited to see how Ria and Alyssa and how we at Spiritual Psych come together to bring that opportunity to the spiritual world, as well as being of service to all people, serving them as best as we can to, as Ria said, help them reach their most authentic self. So I'm excited.
Mm.
Boom, boom.
Boom,
Drop.
I know. That's it. Beautiful. Well, I just want to, first of all, everything will be in the show notes, but for those tuning in, you have the Spiritually Psyched podcast. I know you're on Facebook and Instagram and are really creating this incredible, I'm just seeing it almost like create so much momentum and really standing in that space of, I love what you said, helping people to really tune into their authentic self in a way that is safe, sacred, honored, where you can be vulnerable, where you can also honor the humanity that we are, not try to overstep it or avoid it, which I love it. I love what you said. So what I usually ask at the very end, this is maybe because it's how I work, I usually ask before we wrap is, I call them heart flares. They're sort of a like, I didn't say this, or there's a message coming through and I just feel like my heart wants to say this. And if it's like a lightning round, if you have a heart flare, if there's something I didn't ask you, or that's just right there for you, or your heart is like, please, I want to share this. I'm just going to give you a moment, each of you, to share your heart flare.
I love that. I did have a heart flare.
I knew it.
I did. I went to say before that I said this before that I hope in my lifetime that this language that we're speaking, it's a language, a new language, I really believe, is brought to our culture in a way that really makes impact. And I think about wellness, wholeness, integrative medicine, and really the dream is to have have this language, have doctors and nurses, anyone in the fields of working with people, to be savvy in this language, to understand the connection between body, mind, and spirit. It's sort of an age-old. We've been using this for many years, but just really understanding how impactful honoring all the different aspects of self is to our health and wellness. That's my
Beautiful.
flair. That was
Beautiful. Love it. Boom.
Thank you.
I'm going
Say the heart flare.
jump in a similar sort of thread and say that I'm really grateful to just be having this conversation. I feel like a big part of how and why we came together too is because we love talking about this stuff. Do we disagree sometimes? Sure, of course we do. Do we sit there and ponder and like, I don't know. Let's figure this one out, and I want to be able to do that with other people too. So I think it's important. I want everyone, everyone that's listening to know too, that we're welcoming that conversation. And I think this example, Julie, here with you today, just because we've had so many conversations together, us three, for a really long time, us three girls, and now we're having it with someone else, and it feels really good. It feels really good. So I'm excited to have it with others.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Rhea.
Right?
I feel like, Julie, thank you. I feel like you gave us, for some reason, I just have this like intuitive feeling that like you gave Rhea and Alyssa and I the opportunity for whatever reason in this moment to really see what this really is for us and how expansive it really can be and how we can collaborate with people like yourself and others. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we always knew that we had a solid foundation and that this was something really special, but I don't know what it is about you, Julie, or what it is about this moment. But in this moment, it's like, it was almost solidified within. I was like, oh yeah, nope, yep, this is where this is going. We're going to do this. This is going to be amazing. And there's so many wonderful things to come. And also just a little shout out to this divine feminine that we've got going on, this divine
Yes.
feminine energy that we all have, which is really beautiful.
Feels like a we are here moment. Like
Yes, it's like that. It's so weird.
Right?
I love
And
it.
Julie, I believe like I just feel like she was the perfect energy in this
Yeah.
moment, like the perfect energy. And it's like you fit in like a glove, Julie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Right. I'm sorry, honey. Say again.
No,
Julie?
go please. I'm
I would
listening.
say
It's like,
divine right timing. I mean, I really do I believe strongly in it's a calling. I really do feel the word mission and calling, in all seriousness, it's like, I sounded airy fairy in my Bohemian Rhapsody chant, but in general, it is a calling. We're just, again, in a place of evolution. And Julie is your energy and how you show up is beautiful and divine. And it definitely is at the perfect time in general.
well, thank you. What I want my heart flare that I want to say, because those listening, like, this is what I believe happens when we align or tune into that voice that you were talking about, Anna, so beautifully, that literally gave me chills throughout my whole body. Is you, Anna, have the idea and go to Alyssa and then to Rhea, and then you form, and then Alyssa and I met, and I was like, bring everyone on. I want this whole conversation. And I'm honored to be part of this solidification on it. And it's a powerful day, anyhow, the day that we're doing this. But also, I say this for those listening, when you tune in, it's not that you're not gonna have the ups and downs, but I feel like I'm watching the divine express him itself through each of you. And that idea, the mastermind is like, when you get more than 2-3 people together, it's not just 3 or it's 4, it's like multiplied. And so I'm just so honored to be part of your energy and what you're doing. I do think we've got to check in, because I have a feeling, you've got there's a big soul contract on Spiritually Psyched. And I'm so thankful to be part of your just beautiful, powerful formation. It feels very divinely guided and led. And so I think each of you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hearing us and thank you for seeing us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.